So I've started hardening off the last of my cold weather crops. And what I have here in these flats is going to be Durgish 41 cauliflower and Cuisin cauliflower, or cabbage, I believe it's a cabbage. Promise cabbage, some various peas that I decided to start indoors instead of planting directly outside. Some calendula, which is a frost hardy flower and medicinal herb. Leeks, I have both American flag leeks and the Tadorna leek. A couple rutabagas, Kariba broccoli, and Promise cabbage. And I was having some trouble with two new varieties that I started this year. The first one is the Marianne rutabaga. It's like a deep, darkish purple rutabaga. And I had terrible germination on it. I had tons of germination on my American purple top rutabaga, which is basically the standard rutabaga. It's what you're gonna find in stores as well. But I don't know what happened with that new rutabaga that I got this year. And then also, I'm having trouble with the Tadorna leeks. I believe those are out of Johnny Seed Company, and they're supposed to be like really cold hardy. They're best when they're overwintered, which is why I got them, because we get pretty cold during the winter here. And I just had really spotty germination with those. So I started more leeks, and I also started more rutabagas, which are in here, just because I really wanted to try those deep purple rutabagas that I bought, and I just had really spotty germination. So we're gonna see if I have better germination out of this set than the last time I tried to start them, although it is getting kind of late to be starting seeds. I only have about 30 days left before my first frost. But today we are out in the garden, and I hope you forgive me. I hope this background noise isn't too loud. As I've told you before, the freeway of the interstate is like right over there, and that's probably that sound you hear in the background. It's just really loud in the mornings. I don't know, it has something to do with the air or the thinness. It's just super loud in the mornings. But I have good news. My germination method for these cold crops worked. Look at all these guys. These are little radishes. This is the Sora radish. It's a hybrid from Johnny Seeds. It's a more heat tolerant radish. And I have tons of germination here. So what I've been doing is coming out and checking, lifting up the cardboard every morning and checking to see if I have germination. I only have germination in 2 of my rows, and I believe it's a radish, which I just showed you in this first row, and possibly beets in the other row. I didn't label anything. I know that there's carrots, radishes, and beets in this bed. I just don't know which is which. I do know these are radishes in this first row. But as soon as I see germination, I'll take the cardboard off. Unfortunately, our days are still getting into the 90s, so I do have to come out here midday and water so the top of the soil doesn't dry out. But I do need to uncover them, because as soon as they sprout out of the soil, they need sun. So this row has germinated, and this row has germinated. And I want to say that these are beets. I remember planting beet seeds on this side. And then also, as you can tell, I have multiple, I have multiple sprouts coming up out of one location. And that's because the seed pods of beets actually contain several seeds. So you can plant just, if you've ever opened up a beet packet, they're like rather large little pods. And you shake them, there's multiple seeds in those pods. So you can plant one seed of a beet and get multiple sprouts out of that one seed. So with all of this germination and multiple plants coming out of one spot, I do believe that this row is beets. And then I still have no germination coming out of these 2 rows closest to the fence line. So I'm just leaving the cardboard over them until I see something coming out of the ground, which I don't yet. But this has been really convenient with these smaller boxes. They were all Amazon boxes. And I could use 2 separate rows of boxes to cover each row of root crops. And that way, if something germinates faster than the other, I can still have coverage where I need it. So this germination method has been super successful for me this year, more successful than any other germination method I've tried the past few years. And I will definitely have to do a video on it. I don't know, I'm going to plant more seeds. I'm going to do lettuce and stuff like that pretty soon. I just need to clear out more beds. And we're going to do that today. So yesterday I took out one of these tomatoes on this giant tomato trellis I have. And honestly, I think I'm just going to tear this big guy out. I know, he's glorious, he's beautiful. But I've only got a couple, honestly, messed up looking tomatoes on this plant. Oh, there's another one. And there are plenty of recipes for green tomato salsa that I can make. So I think I'm just going to pull all of the green tomatoes and take this entire plant out. I do want to leave the okra because I'm still pulling tons of okra off of it. Although it's getting pretty cold at night. It was 58 this morning when I woke up. Even though the days are warm, the cold temperatures are getting there. And our main problem here in this high desert is that it can be really warm during the day and get pretty cold at night. And if I don't get my fall crops planted out sooner rather than later, they're not going to have time to adjust to the cold temperatures before we start our freeze in 30 days. So I'm just going to have to bite the bullet and tear some stuff out even though I don't want to. Even also with the colder nights, these tomatoes are just going to ripen slower. We're losing sunlight. So I think I'm also going to take out this 4x4 bed of tomatoes right here. There's tons of green tomatoes on it. They look so good. They're so fat and just perfectly circular. It was a really good tomato. This was the Grand Marshall F1 hybrid. And I'll definitely grow it again next year. But I think for this year, we're done. So I only got 4 total tomatoes off of that huge plant, and these little tiny guys, it would not have been worth it to keep that plant going just so these would ripen. At least not to me, maybe to someone else. I've got tons of tomatoes in my freezer and I have tons of tomatoes on my countertop. So these I'll take inside. We'll make some salsa verde with them. And now that I have a clear spot on a trellis, I can plant the peas that I showed you guys at the beginning out here on the trellis. Hooray! So, sad day for this tomato plant, great day for the fall garden. Now, of course, I will have to re-amend this part of the bed, especially since I'm not taking these okra out yet. Look how giant these guys are. Sheesh. But there is a lot of soil depth that I need to recover here. Goodness, that's probably about 6 inches. So I'll have to pull all this mulch back and at least just put some more soil and amendments right here, only to plant the peas, and then we can just wait until these guys are done. And now we can start on this mess of a tomato bed that has tons and tons of great tomatoes on it. I mean, look at these. Perfect little globes of green tomatoes. I really wish I could wait for these to ripen, but I need this bed and that one over there to be done so I can plant my garlic for the fall. We do have a nice big, almost ready, juicy tomato right here, which I will take inside and let ripen. This guy's big. Nice. But let's harvest the rest of these green tomatoes and then we'll rip these plants out. Look at all these tomatoes I got, and they're all really large. It's kind of depressing to see all these tiny ones that could have just grown into super awesome huge tomatoes, like this guy. And I will definitely be growing this tomato again next year. This Grand Marshal hybrid tomato from Johnny Seeds put on a second flush. It died back. I thought it was done producing in the middle of the summer, and then we got a few rains and it just put out all of these gorgeous uniform tomatoes. And honestly, if I left this bed, I would get probably a ton more tomatoes before the first frost in November. I just don't have the time or the space to leave these guys in, but it's definitely giving me some thought next year about how many I want to grow. I think I want to grow a lot more. And I think they would do well with some mid-season fertilizer, obviously. Look how well they're doing now. And maybe I'm going to check my drip system because maybe they weren't getting watered very well with my new drip system that I have in. I don't know what's going on, but this is amazing. This second growth and this huge flush of tomatoes from these plants is amazing. Well, I was right. It wasn't getting much water. When I went to take this drip line out of the bed, this just came off the main line. It's split right here. And it is also split where it connects to the drip system. So that would be a problem. I won't need it anyways for the fall garden because garlic is going in this bed, and I'm going to have to hand water this garlic because my drip system is a foot at every drip hole, and I'm going to be planting my garlic closer than that, probably every 4 or 6 inches. So I'll be hand watering both of the garlic beds as well as the onion bed and the root vegetable bed. But luckily I will not have to water as often during the winter because it's cold. So let's get this bed amended. So the bed is done, and I will need to get some more hay mulch from my neighbors because what was left did not cover this bed completely as well as I would have liked. I will not be planting my garlic today. In our area, the recommended planting dates are between October and November. As of right now, it's still September and it's pretty warm. So I will wait probably until mid-October or so to get this garlic in the ground. But at least for now, I might do it in the beginning of October. I think that's what I did last year and it worked out just fine. And I do live in a colder microclimate than the rest of my area, so I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, I'll probably do it beginning of October, but I am happy I got the tomatoes out. I really just needed to start clearing out some of these beds so that I could, like, I feel like my brain wouldn't function. I was like just waiting for plants to ripen, and I was just like, just bite the bullet and get these plants out of the bed. What I am keeping for now is this pepper bed, which has my jalapenos, a couple red chili plants, and a ton of sugar rush peaches. They are still putting on buku amounts of fruit. So I will be keeping that. But most likely my next bed will be this pepper bed, which I don't harvest from that frequently. I've got a few red chili plants, one padron plant that I get a couple harvests off of, and that's about it. So I mean, it is putting off food, and I am taking the peppers that I do get inside and preserving them. But as for which bed needs to go next, it's going to be that pepper bed, because I still want to keep harvesting okra. I'm doing some preserving with that. And I mean, after I only have 3 8x4 beds left, and then all of the summer plants are out. That's about it. But I need more room to plant like root vegetables. I want to direct sow some kohlrabi, and I need a garden bed for that. So just having a ton of summer plants like these tomatoes in here for an extended period of time was just throwing my brain off, because I couldn't plan for where I was going to put stuff. Now I know in these 4x4 beds I'm going to do garlic. If I have space left over, I will sow some root vegetables in with the garlic, like carrots or maybe even some leafy greens, lettuce and kale and stuff like that. And you know what, I probably will have room left over. I did not order that much garlic this year because the amount of garlic I got last year, which I'll link the video because I have a whole video on how to plant garlic in the fall. But the amount of garlic that I harvested last year, I just have so much in my closet, in my food storage closet, that there's no way we're gonna get through all that garlic in like by the next time I harvest. So I ordered less this year for that reason, because I mean, I don't want to just grow a ton of garlic and then have some of it go bad. Of course I'll dehydrate it into garlic powder for sure, but I didn't need that much garlic. Definitely overshot my needs last year. And that's about it. And then one of these 8x4 beds, most likely this pepper bed right here, will have the onions in it, because I'm hardening off my onion starts and they will need to go in the ground in October. And then I'll have 2 more 8x4 beds left to put the cold weather brassicas, the ones that I showed you at the beginning of the video, into, as well as the in-ground garden that will have overflow cold weather crops. So I think it's all working out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with my planning that I honestly didn't plan that well this year, but it's turning out to work out. I also forgot to mention that I took the asparagus beans off this trellis yesterday. They were not giving me any green beans anymore. They were just going to seed, drying up. So I will probably, I don't know when I'm going to take out this pepper bed. It's not necessary right now. I'm still hardening off my other brassicas in the front. They could come out in a couple days, but they'll be just fine in those pots as well, because they're fairly small. So I'm not worried about keeping them in the pots too long. and I can keep harvesting peppers from this bed until it's absolutely necessary to get them out here. They will have to be planted out by mid-October just because our nights will be getting into the 50s regularly, possibly even the 40s. And they need to become acclimated to those temperatures, the cold temperatures, before we start freezing in November. So they will go out within the next few weeks. It's just not a priority right now. What is going to be a priority are the peas that I have hardening off in the front. Because peas don't like to be transplanted, so you don't want them to get root bound. And they're already pretty tall, and I should honestly transplant them fairly soon. So the peas that I have started in those pots will go on either side of these trellises, and I will just have to amend a small portion of this bed before I do the rest of it. But that's it for today. With everything I have going on, I'm trying to get like a little bit done in the garden every day, which has worked out quite well for me. If I come out and just clear out one bed or come and plant a few things and I just feel like I check mark something off my list that needs to be done, I'm getting it done at a reasonable pace, and I'm pretty on schedule. So this is good. I will leave the garden today. I'll probably harvest a couple peppers that I see that could come out. But other than that, I will be done in the garden for today, and I'm gonna go clean the house. So this is an official goodbye to tomato season. I have no tomato plants left in this garden, but I have tons of tomatoes preserved. I have them dehydrated, frozen for tomato sauce, which I still have to make. We'll worry about that later. Couple green tomatoes. You know what? I might make the salsa verde today. But goodbye tomato season. We're still in pepper season, and the fall garden is coming along. Soon I'll be eating cauliflower and sauerkraut. I'm excited, and it's getting cooler. We even have temperatures highs in the 80s next week. Can you believe that? It's gonna be so cold. Thank you guys for saying goodbye to my tomatoes with me. I'll catch you on the next one.